Welcome back to Market Headlines. Property industry is showing recovery sign. As a proof, the residential property price index has increased in the third quarter of 2020 with 111.2 points, or an increase of 0.5% compared to the second quarter. The Residential Property Price Survey is a quarterly survey to identify the source of inflationary pressure from the demand side and to gain information on residential property prices. It is one of the indicators to compute the asset price inflations in Indonesia. The good news is, Indonesia's residential property price index is showing uptrend. The residential property price index has increased in the third quarter of 2020 with 111.2, or an increase of 0.5% compared to the second quarter. In short, the residential property price index, which has increased, show optimism in the property sector amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. From all sources, IDX Channel. And yes, viewers, before starting the infographic segment, I would like to tell you that Residential Property Price Survey is a quarterly survey that is conducted by the central bank. It is one of the indicators to compute the asset price of the inflations in Indonesia's housing. Even though in the third quarter it went up a little bit by 0.5%, we cannot even deny that in 2020 it is a tough year for residential property sales. And residential property sales have shown a downward trend amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And therefore, it reflects to lower people's purchasing power despite lower mortgage interest rate. And well, I'd like to open up this infographic segment with the graphic about property sales in 2020. Here it is through your screen. We can see on how 2020 residential property sales. Begin with the small houses. In the first quarter of 2020, it is minus 42.42%. Meanwhile, in the second quarter, it went down by 14%. And then moving on to the medium house. In the first quarter, we can see that the growth has a minus 50%, while in the second quarter 2020, the number went up a little bit to be minus 40%. Meanwhile, in the large house, in the first quarter of 2020, it reached minus 14%, while in the second quarter of 2020, the number went even lower by minus 36%. And a recent survey by the central bank revealed that the combined sales of small, medium, and large houses fell in the first 6 months of the year, largely because of the unfolding COVID-19 pandemic. And the medium-term outlook for the housing market remains highly uncertain, so much different than last year. The industry still booked an annual growth of 1.19% in the sales in the fourth quarter of last year. And there are certain reasons though, so let's see through the next graphic. And yes, viewers, through your screen, we can see the reasons behind declining residential property sales. First of all, it's COVID-19 pandemic. We have already seen a sharp economic contractions as a result of the necessary measures to adopted to suppress the spread of the virus. And it applied to buyers as well, as they have a tendency to hold its money. Still high mortgage loan, and then the next one is that a high down payment, rising price of building materials, which are affected by the oil price fluctuations. For your information, it's also contributed to the increase in property prices. And the locations factor also matters. The more strategic the place, the higher the price. And the last one is that through your screen we can see bureaucratic issue. And yes, viewers, as a booster, the government has set aside 1.5 trillion rupiah for the interest rate and down payment subsidies this year for the low-income households to enable them to purchase a house. And the relief allows low-income household to pay a mortgage annual interest rate of just 5% for a tenure of 10 years. And for Papua and West Papua residents, it's only 4% for a tenure of 20 years. And about mortgage loan, the distributions has gone sluggish for the recent months. So let's see through the next graphic. And through your screen, we can see that the mortgage distributions growth went lower as a quarter over quarter. Here it is, we can see that in the first quarter of 2019, for example, it hit 13.1%. But however, in the first quarter of 2020, it reached 7.1% only. And then moving on to the second quarter of 2019, in 2020, it was in the level of 12.9%, but however, in 2020, it reached only 4.1%. We can see the significant differences in here through the mortgage distributions growth, which leads into lower people's purchasing power. While the industry relies heavily on a mortgage because the consumers who paid houses using loans reaches around 74% in the January-March period. This is higher by nearly 3 percentage points than in September 2019, which is September to December period of last year. And specifically speaking, State-Owned Bank Tabungan Negara, or BBTN, stated that it will continue to facilitate Indonesians people to have place to live. And the target is that this state-owned bank can distribute mortgage loan up to 1.5 million trillion rupiah, by meaning 1.5 million people as of 2025. And as of September 2020, Bank BTN has distributed mortgage loan totaling 93,000 units worth 15.6 trillion rupiah. But however, the mortgage loan has been overshadowed by big potential of non-performing loan. And a non-performing loan, or NPL, is a loan which is the borrower is at default and hasn't made any scheduled payment for the principal or interest for some time. And the higher, the scarier. So let's see the conditions through the next graphic. Here it is through your screen. We can see the NPL grow by the time goes by. Here it is, we can see on how it went higher than ever. In the first quarter of 2019, the number was in 2.06%. But however, in the first quarter of 2020, it went up by 2.8%. Well, if we take a look in the second quarter of 2019, it was in 2.7%, but however, we can see through the data in here, the second quarter of 2020, the NPL went higher to be 3.2%. And the COVID-19 outbreak has boosted the increase in non-performing loans. Yes, the COVID-19 the outbreak has boosted an increase in non-performing loans for almost all credit sectors and the banking sectors. And of course, this includes mortgage loans. Not surprisingly, like other credit sectors, many mortgage debtors have applied for credit restructuring to banks and to get relief from the paying their installments. And yes, viewers, although the pandemic impact will still overshadow the global and national economy, but still we have to be optimistic that we will see the growth in residential industry. Yes, viewers, stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.